Hello, my name's Sally Foskett and I work as part of the horse welfare team as a horse welfare coordinator at Blue Cross. Today we're going to be going through how to correctly body score your horse. It's crucial to a horse's health and welfare that the horse's weight is maintained at a level that's suitable for them. If a horse is overweight, it might be prone to conditions such as laminitis, EMS, heart problems or breathing problems. On the other hand, horses that are underweight are just as likely to suffer from illness and disease. This is why it's so important that we ensure that we keep our horse's weight at the right level. Body scoring is a method of assessing your horse's current condition by looking at the amount of fat coverage he has over his body. We can't do this by just looking at our horse. We have to be able to run our hands over the horse's body to be able to feel for the amount of fat. At Blue Cross, we do this by breaking the horse down into 3 sections. Picture an imaginary line breaking your horse down into the 3 areas: the neck and shoulder, the middle, which is the back and the belly, and finally the quarters, the pelvis to tail. We then score each area from 0 to 5, with 0 being too thin and 5 being too fat. During this video, we'll be showing you 3 different horses with different body scores. This is Zorro, and we're going to be condition scoring him today. To begin with, we're going to be looking at his neck and shoulder. So first of all, looking at his neck, there's a nuchal ligament that runs from the skull down the top of the horse's neck here and through into the horse's back. So we're looking at anything above the nuchal line is fat. So I'm feeling the line and I'm assessing to see how much fat he has on his neck. There's a little bit here, a little bit of fat there. I can feel. Next, I'm going to be moving down to the neck. My hand should move down his neck and the shoulder should comfortably stop my hand from moving on anymore. There shouldn't be any fat lumps in front of the shoulder that stops my hand first. So, as you can see, my hand is running down the neck and stopping quite comfortably at the shoulder. So, taking into account a little bit of fat here on his neck, but the fact my hand can comfortably stop on his shoulder, I would give his neck and shoulder a body score of 2.5. Next, we're going to be moving on to the middle section of the horse. So first of all, we start and we see if we can feel the ribs. They should feel like a stair banister with a velvet sort of bit of material over the top. So as I run my hands over his side, I can feel the ribs quite clearly. We can't actually see them. He has quite a thick coat, but the fact that I can feel them is good. We should be able to feel our horse's ribs. The next thing we need to do is we're going to look at the amount of fat the horse has over his back. So if we place a hand just behind the withers and we lift our hand off, you can see I have got quite an arch, almost like a triangle. If the horse's back has got too much fat across it, it would come across almost like a very flat hand. If the horse is very underweight, my hand would really be a very steep triangle. So with him, we do have a little bit of triangle. So if I was going to body score this section of the horse, I'd probably call it a 2, just because of the lack of fat across the back here. And I can feel the ribs, although I can't see them because of his coat. Lastly, we're looking at the horse's quarters. So we're looking at the pelvis and the hip bones and the tailbone to see how defined they are and how well we can feel them. Now with Toro, it's actually very, very easy to feel his pelvis bones and his hip. He does have quite a lot of winter coat, so it's not as easy to see, but they are quite clearly defined, as is the bone coming down here to his tail. So again, feeling this and taking that into account, I would say his quarters have a body score of a 2. They're just lacking a little bit of weight and muscle here over the quarters. So overall, we scored this horse a 2.5 for his neck. He had a little bit of fat on his top of his neck, but I could easily stop my hand at the shoulder. For his middle, we scored a 2 because I can easily feel the ribs, and also across his backbone, he's got a lack of fat on either side across his back. On his quarters, we scored a 2 because I could clearly feel the hip bones and the pelvis. Our optimum body score for a horse would be anywhere between 2.5 and 3.5. This is Bailey, who we're going to body score next, and again we're going to be breaking him down into the 3 areas. So starting with the neck and shoulder again, just going to be running my hands down the neck and the shoulder, just feeling for the amount of fat. So again, I'm starting at the top, feeling for that nuchal ligament that runs down the neck. And he's got a good coverage on the neck, as you can see. And then next, running my hand down the neck and see if it will comfortably stop at the shoulder, which it does. So there's no fat lumps in front of the shoulder again. So I would body score this horse's neck at a 3, as he's got some good coverage down his neck, but nothing excessive on the amount of fat. Moving on to the middle section of this horse. To start with, I'll just be running my hands over the horse's ribs. I can fairly easily feel these horses' ribs. I don't have to push too hard to be able to do so. We can't see them, but I can definitely feel them, which is good. And then putting my hand, again, like on the first horse, across the horse's back to assess the amount of fat across the horse's back. So as I take my hand off, you can see there's a gentle curve. So I'd be assessing this horse at a body score 3, which is the ideal weight that we want him to be. Finally, looking at the quarters. So again, we want to feel the hip bone and having a feel over the pelvis. So we should be able to just about feel these bones, but not see them protruding. And again, just feeling down onto the tailbone. And as I feel this horse, I can feel the bones, but I can't see them sticking out. So again, he's the ideal body score of 3 on this horse's quarters. So overall, we scored this horse a 3 for his neck. He has the ideal coverage over the top of his neck. And again, my hand could easily stop at the shoulder blade. For his middle, I could just feel the ribs, and we had a good curve for the cupping of the hand over the back. So again, we scored him at a body score 3 for his middle. And then moving on to his quarters, again, I could feel the hip bones and his pelvis quite comfortably. And again, we scored that at a 3. So this horse is the ideal weight we would look for at Blue Cross. This is Grace, and this is the final horse we're going to body score today. So again, starting at the neck, so we're going to be feeling along that top line again, and feeling for that nuchal ligament and seeing how much is above that. So as you can see, as I'm running my hand down, there's a considerable amount of fat above that nuchal ligament that I can feel. And then next thing again is to run my hand down. Again, remember before we were saying it should just stop comfortably at the shoulder. The shoulder should bring my hand to a halt. This time it's running straight over. There isn't much to stop it. So again, just got a little fat deposit here where my hand is just sliding over. It's not a huge fat lump, but there's definitely a fat deposit. So body scoring her neck, I would definitely say she was a 4. So moving on to the middle area, we're going to try and feel the ribs again. And I actually can't feel any ribs at all. So that means she's got quite a big fat deposit here on her middle. Let's have a look across her back. So again, placing my hand just behind the wither. And we're just trying to determine how much fat she's got over her back. I should have a curve, but as you can see, my hand's pretty flat. So actually, body scoring her, because I can't feel the ribs at all, and across the back here is fairly flat, I'd say her middle was a 4.5. So finally onto her quarters. So once again, we're seeing if we can feel the hips, any hip bones. Pelvis, tailbone, good girl, stand up, good girl. I can't feel any of the bones, so that means she's got quite a lot of fat, almost like an apple-shaped bottom here. So as you can see, we're also looking here, and she's got a slight gully running down the middle of her quarters. So again, it's quite useful to be able to feel and see if the horse has got that. If they have that, that means there's too much fat coming up either side over the hips and the quarters. So she's well filled out. So again, I'd definitely give her a body score of a 4 for her quarters because I can't feel any of the hip bones or the pelvis. Overall, we can see that Grace is a cob type, and it's a common myth that cobs should carry more weight. This isn't true. We need to try and ensure each and every type, breed, size, age, try and carry the same body score of 2.5 to 3.5. So when we were looking at Grace, we body scored her neck at a 4. She has quite a bit of fat coverage over her neck and on her top line. Moving on to her midsection, I couldn't feel the ribs at all, and my hand was pretty flat when we were going across the back, so we body scored her at 4.5. And then looking at her quarters, again, couldn't feel the hip bones or the pelvis. She had the gully running down the middle of her quarters, so again we body scored that at a 4. So she is carrying too much weight at the moment. We have seen 3 very different horses today and discussed the importance of keeping your horse's body score within the range of 2.5 to 3.5. This must be done regularly to make sure we keep track of any changes in their weight. If you can see and feel the bones, your horse is probably too thin. If you can neither feel or see the bones, the horse is probably too overweight. If you can just feel your horse's bones but not see them, your horse should be the right weight. We're now going to move on to show you how to weight tape a horse correctly. At Blue Cross, we encourage all horse borrowers to ensure they regularly weight tape their horse throughout the year to monitor their weight. At Blue Cross, we use the same make of weight tape to ensure consistency every time we weigh a horse. So again, if you're doing this at home, and make sure you use the same weight tape each time. Ensure you're reading the correct row. As you can see on this weight tape, we are reading the kilograms row. When we come to weight tape our horse, we need to ensure they're standing square as we can get them, and hopefully on a level concrete surface. We're then going to place the weight tape gently over the horse's back. We need to do this quite carefully in case they get a little bit upset by it. We're then going to gently put the tape around over the horse's back. The tape should lie just behind the wither and as close as to the elbow as we can get it. We're going to bring the arrow to the tape, and as you can see, we've already marked the tape before. She's consistent with her weight of 293 kilograms. Each time you weight tape your horse, ensure you're using the same weight tape, the horse is standing on a level surface and standing square, that the weight tape is placed correctly around the horse. You weight tape regularly throughout the year and record your findings. Thank you for watching the video today. If you require any further help with body scoring or weight taping your horse, please contact your horse welfare coordinator.